Hello, and hope you're doing well today. Welcome to Finding the Facts with Dan. I'm Dan O'Brien, and in this episode, we're going to take a look at the World Economic Forum and their contribution to lessening the carbon footprint to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. As you're probably aware, Bill Gates, a founder of Microsoft and member of the WEF, has been buying up farmland as he believes that cows are the worst contributor to greenhouse gases and climate change, and wants to change the way we here in the U.S. eat, meaning that we no longer get to eat meat. Let's jump in and see what the WEF and its partners are up to in combating the greenhouse gas emissions and shrinking their carbon footprint. As will soon become painfully evident, none of the WEF partners are changing their footprint as they prepared a mandate for us to do, nor did they ever plan to do it. And leader Klaus Schwab sits idly by as they all profit from status quo while attempting to puppet the masses into a reset that will benefit them more and more as time goes on. As I'm sure you're aware, Klaus Schwab is the founder and leader of the WEF. If not, I'll be releasing a video with a brief history of his life up till now. As I'm sure you're also aware, Microsoft is a strong partner and listed on WEF's site as such. Let's first take a look at founder Bill Gates and how he's reducing his carbon footprint. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, who is currently the world's fourth richest person, has stood as a modest polluter by billionaire standards, this study claims. However, Bill Gates does not own a giant yacht, but his private jets, luxurious mansions, and a seaplane have majorly contributed to the higher carbon footprints, this study added. Gates in the 1990s built a vast estate in Medina, Washington. The giant home covers 6,131 square meters with a 23-car garage. He also owns at least 5 other dwellings, as well as a horse farm, 4 private jets, a seaplane, and of course a collection of helicopters. According to this study, Gates' annual footprint is at 7,493 metric tons of carbon, mostly from a lot of flying, I'm sure. Gates has 2 Gulfstream G650 ERs, the ER stands for extended range, and 2 Bombardier Challenger 350s. One G650 goes through about 409 gallons of fuel each hour. A Bombardier averages 330 gallons per hour. We then turn to Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Interestingly, the world's top 2 richest persons, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and Tesla SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, have recorded relatively small carbon footprints as per the study. Bezos, with a $191 billion net worth, had an estimated carbon footprint of 2,224.2 tons in 2018, whereas Musk's estimated footprint was 2,084 tons in the same period. Bezos, like Gates, as Amazon owner, is a large stakeholder in the WEF, although he appears to practice a little more of the preaching than Gates does. However, when you think about Amazon, how much is their carbon footprint? But as you can clearly see, the combined carbon footprint of these other 2 billionaires, Bezos and Musk, their combined footprint does not even equate to 2/3 that of Bill Gates, the man who wants to take steak off your plate to save the planet from cow farts. This study analyzed 2,095 billionaires listed in the Forbes List 2020. It revealed that yachts make up most of the emissions, while mansions and other dwellings make up a very minor share of their carbon footprints. However, the research did not include most of the super rich in Asia and Middle East. Last year, the UN's Environment Program also claimed that the world's wealthiest 1% accounted for more than twice the combined carbon emissions of the poorest 50%. Let that sink in for a minute. I'll say it again. Last year, the UN's Environment Program also claimed that the world's wealthiest 1% account for more than twice, 2 times the combined carbon emissions of the poorest 50%. Of course, folks like Bill Gates buy carbon credits, which means they give their money to certain charities that supposedly offset all the bad they do. It allows them to pay for their sins in advance and feel better, as well as also have a feeble defense when you point out that they are polluting more than the major portion of the population. Now, Elon Musk got lumped into this simply because he's part of the study that I'm presenting. Let me talk to you for a second about ESG that the WEF pushed for. Environmental, Social, and Governance, ESG, investing, refers to a set of standards for a company's behavior used by socially conscious investors to screen potential investments. Environmental criteria consider how a company safeguards the environment, including corporate policies addressing climate change, for example. Social criteria examines how it manages relationships with its employees, suppliers, customers, and the communities where it operates. Governance deals with a company's leadership, executive pay, audits, internal controls, and shareholder rights. In tweets this year, Musk writes, "I am increasingly convinced that corporate ESG is the devil incarnate." And in another tweet he writes, "Exxon is rated top 10 best in the world for ESG by the S&P 500, while Tesla didn't make the list. ESG is a scam. It has been weaponized by phony social justice warriors." His reaction in this, I feel, is totally rational and factual. Now, switching gears from the individuals, let's look at the top 20 contributors of carbon and where they stand with the WEF. For the sake of time, let's just look at the top 8. They are all energy companies in one way or another. Top to bottom, the dirtiest company starts at the top. Saudi Aramco with 59.26 billion tons of CO2 emissions. WEF on their site has an Our Partners section where you can see all the partners that support WEF as well as being supported by that federation. First on the list, as you can see, Saudi Aramco is on their list of partners. BlackRock, the world's largest investment firm, is backing a new pipeline for gas to the tune of $15.5 billion for Saudi Aramco. BlackRock itself controls close to $10 trillion, yes, trillion dollars of funds all across the world and is possibly the biggest, most dark partner in WEF. Chevron, they're obviously a partner. Gazprom is owned by the Russian Federation. Putin himself was tied to the WEF. The WEF states on their site, Russia will take a leading role in shaping the trajectory of the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Today, leaders from the Russian Federation and the World Economic Forum announced that the center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution was Russia. So that's their tie to the WEF. ExxonMobil, number 4 on the list, is tied at least by BlackRock, who is the number 2 shareholder. British Petroleum, or BP, obvious tie as you can see. Royal Dutch Shell, or as you probably know them as simply Shell, another obvious tie. But why did I skip the National Iranian Oil Company? It needs a little background. In 1954, the AIOC, or Anglo-Iranian Oil Industry, became British Petroleum. BP then got turned into National Iranian Oil Company in 1954. It was incorporated in London as a holding company, called Iranian Oil Participants, or IOP. IOP was set up to get a 50-50 share with the NIOC, and they were comprised of, again, some very familiar companies. The founding members of IOP included British Petroleum, BP, Gulf, which later turned to Chevron, Royal Dutch Shell, French Petroleum, I'm not even going to pretend to be able to pronounce that name, Standard Oil of California, SoCal, they later turned into Chevron, Standard Oil of New Jersey, they later turned into ExxonMobil, Standard Oil Company of New York, later turned into ExxonMobil, Texaco, later into Chevron. The IOP was later dissolved. However, these companies still maintain vested interests and are tied to the WEF, the largest of which is BlackRock, a name which consistently surfaces with ties to the WEF. This brings us to Coal India, a publicly traded company in which both Vanguard and BlackRock, there they are again, hold shares. Now, the purpose of this episode is not to point out that fossil fuels are bad. They're desperately needed at this time more than ever. And the Keystone Pipeline could have stabilized our prices and our gas independence had it not been shut down by short-sighted politicians who simply were looking to undo what those before them had done because they felt it would further their political career. I don't mean to say either that the green energy is bad. However, at this point, the technology has not progressed enough that green power plants don't need fossil fuel or nuclear backup. Look at what's happening in California. What I think the real takeaway here is that the World Economic Forum is preaching a reduction of a carbon footprint and ultimately equality for all. But they support all these companies that don't follow that philosophy, which leads me to believe that the WEF is not being at all truthful with us, further solidifying the claims that they are in this for the elite and not for the good of the earth or the people. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you know when more videos are coming out. If you enjoyed this and found it educational, please share with your friends and family. And don't forget that elections are almost upon us. Educate yourself on what the officials stand for, what they really truly stand for. Get out there and vote. God bless you and stay safe.